Hi everybody, this is Todd Olthoff from ToddOlthoff.com coming back at you with another screencast. And this week we're going to continue our discussion of SSH and the ability to log into servers remotely to move files and things like that. And this week we're going to talk specifically about SFTP. Now, if you remember back in the tutorial I did on FTP, which basically is File Transfer Protocol, we talked about how to set up FTP, how to access files and those kinds of things and move them around. And so in this screencast I want to talk about SFTP, which is Secure File Transfer Protocol. And that's done over an SSH line. Now, the difference between FTP and SFTP is really just one of security. FTP is not a very secure file transfer protocol because it's done out in the open and the keys are sent in plain text, which means that if someone intercepts the data that's going back and forth, they've pretty much got access to your password and everything that they need to actually get into your server. And that's why FTP isn't really used quite as much as it used to be used. And that's where SFTP comes in, which is the Secure File Transfer Protocol, in that it transfers files over a secure line. It transfers them over SSH, which is secure, and transfers those things back and forth so that the entire communication is encrypted, so that that information is not able to be stolen because of the security that's wrapped around it. So that's why it's a lot easier to set that. It's a lot easier to use that in terms of being secure when you're transferring your files around. So what I thought I'd do is show you how to get SFTP set up and how to make that stuff happen. So the first thing you want to make sure that you do, and again you'll notice SFTP is not in the server application itself, just FTP is. You do not have to have FTP running if you want to use SFTP, so you can have it disabled, and you can see I have FTP disabled here so that you can see the difference. What you're going to want to do is go into System Preferences, and you want to make sure that you have SSH on. And I know we talked about this last week, but I want to show you again just in case you're seeing this one by itself. If you go into the sharing area here, you're going to want to make sure that you have a remote login on. And you can even see right here it says remote login lets users access the computer using SSH and SFTP. So you want to make sure that you turn that service on in order for it to be working. And so like if I just click that switch, it'll start the service and then it'll tell you how to get to your server through SSH right here. And it'll give you that information. Now, you don't have to be on SSH or have remote login turned on if you are trying to access somebody else's server through SFTP. Let me just show you that. I'm going to turn this off so you can see that it's off. And then what I'm going to do is access a remote machine where SSH or remote login is turned on. So let me just pop this down. I'm going to put this down as well. And what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to show you kind of the old-fashioned way of doing it through the terminal. So I'm just going to pull up a bash terminal here. Going old school. And to be able to get in, you just want to type in SFTP with a space, and then you're going to type in the username and then the server. Okay, so you'll type the username and then the server name. Okay, now that could be either a server name if it's a registered domain name, or it could be it could actually be the IP address of that server as well. Let me type that in, and what it's going to do is it'll ask you for your password. You plug that in, and now you can see that it says I'm connected to this server, and now it has the SFTP prompt. And now with that, there's various things that I can do with it, but what I just want to show you is the ability to get a file. Alright, so SFTP is a little easier than SSH was in terms of having to remember you know, code and all that kind of stuff. In SFTP, you simply type get if you want to get a file with space, and then you want to type the file's name. Alright, the one that you want that's on the server. And so I'm just going to type an install DMG that's over there. And I'm going to type, hit enter, and you can see that it's fetching it, and you can see that it's transferring it. You can see the information there, and now it says 100% that it's here. And it tells you where it put it, right? It put it in my users folder under my user, and it put the file right there. So I was able to transfer that file over using SFTP with the terminal, and it's a pretty easy way to do that. And you can also use the command code put to take a file off of your computer and put it on a remote server. So the syntax for SFTP is a little bit easier, and so that's why a lot of people will use this, plus that it's encrypted, as opposed to just SSH. Well, that SSH is encrypted too, but as opposed to just using SSH and try to remember those codes, or using FTP where it's not as secure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this down. Now the great thing is that we've got other appliances and tools that we can use to actually transfer things around. And I know earlier in the screencast I've shown you this, but one of my favorite FTP or SFTP clients is Forklift. And Forklift is on the Mac App Store. It's looks like right now the price is $19.99, which is a great price for that. It really can be a finder replacement for you, and Forklift does a lot of neat things. But it's a file manager as well as an FTP, SFTP, WebDAV client, those kinds of things. And so I would highly recommend this one if you don't have a FTP client right now. Another one is Transmit that a lot of people use. I just happen to like the way that Forklift works. So that's on the Mac App Store where you can download it. Let me just put that down. And let me just pull up Forklift here. And so here's Forklift. Here's what it looks like. You can see it looks very similar to the Finder. You've got your sidebar over here. We've got two pane windows here, which is unique to the Finder. The Finder doesn't have that. Makes it very convenient to move files back and forth. And so if I want to attach to my SFTP and attach to my remote server with that, all I need to do is come up here to this little connect button here. You can see it says connect. And once I click that, a little window slides out here. And it allows me to choose my protocol. I can choose FTP, SFTP, WebDAV, Amazon, AFP, SMB. I mean, there's various ways I can connect. Forklift really is great at dealing with shares and things when you have servers. So I'm going to leave it on SFTP because that's what I want. And in here you're going to put in your server's name. And so you want to put that in there. I'm just going to type it in. And then you want to put in your username for that server and then your password. Okay, once you have all of that in, you click connect. Now you can put more options down here if you want to put in the port or the remote path and all that stuff. You really don't need to. You know, if for some reason you want to do that, or that's the only way you can do it, you can make that work. But I want to see the entire file system on my other computer. So I'm going to click connect. And what it's going to do is go out and connect, and as you can see, it's now connected to the server. You can see over here on the connections that it now shows my server with a little globe here. And now I've got the entire file system of my computer that's sitting remotely on a server. And so earlier you remember with my SSH window, or my terminal window, where I used SFTP to move a file over. You can see that's the file I moved right there over to my server, and here it is sitting there. So this is an easier way to browse it. And I can literally now just from here, if I want to move this file over to my current computer, I mean I can just pull things over and move them, and it'll tell you to copy it. Hang on, it's got it. Let me just skip that for a second. You have to actually put it into a user folder. So I'm going to stick it on my desktop, let's say. So let's move this file over to the desktop, and you can see now it's going to copy it, and it's starting to copy it to show on my desktop. And so now there's the file on my desktop, and so it makes it a lot easier because it is drag and drop, and it's almost like your remote computer is sitting right on your server, and you can move files back and forth very easily. So really this is one of the easiest ways to do that and to make it happen. One of the great things about Forklift is the ability to create what's called droplets to upload things quickly. If you didn't want to look at the screen, you were just sort of uploading a lot of files, you could actually create a droplet for this server that would allow you to sort of upload things quickly and easily. How you would do that is you come up to the file here, up to favorites, and you'd say save as droplet from right there. And then you get to name your droplet. I'm just going to call it server upload, and save it on my desktop. And so we're going to save it, and let me just move that into the frame, and it creates this little droplet like this that now all I have to do is just drag files onto that, whether Forklift is open or running or not, and it will automatically upload those things to my server for which I made this droplet. So it makes it kind of convenient, and those are some of the touches that I like about Forklift. Well, that's all I have for this week. I'll be back at you next week with another screencast to help you learn how to do more things with your Mac.